All right, let's jump right into a really big question, but we're going to tackle it with a pretty unusual story. The question is this: does being poor actually make someone, well, dumber? We're going to see this whole thing play out through the eyes of a very, very logical crocodile.
I know. It sounds like a really provocative question, right? It's one that's usually loaded with all sorts of judgment. But what if the answer has nothing to do with intelligence? Like, at all? What if it's about something completely different? Well, let's find out. Okay, so first things first, let's meet our main character. His name is Croc, and you gotta understand, this guy's entire world is built on pure logic and perfect order.
See, Croc's an economist, and he lives and breathes rationality. Saving? Check. Budgeting? Absolutely. He is 100% convinced that planning for the future is the only way to live a good life. So from his cozy, comfortable little world, he looks out at everyone else and judges them by this super clear, super rigid set of rules he's made up.
So, when he sees an ad for one of those high-interest payday loans, he just scoffs. To him, it's just simple math. It's a trap. Taking a loan like that is basically financial suicide. In his mind, poverty isn't some unfortunate circumstance. No. It's the logical outcome of making a bunch of bad, irrational decisions. He had the whole theory down pat, but he never ever actually experienced the reality.
So Croc's world is perfect, right? It's stable. It's predictable. It's completely safe. Until it wasn't. In a single day, the whole thing just imploded. It all started with some noise outside, a panic in the streets. A totally unexpected economic crisis had just hit. And for Croc, this wasn't just news. This was about to get very, very personal.
Seriously, in the span of about an hour, the bank, the one holding every single cent he'd ever saved, collapsed. Just gone. Everything. All his plans, the money for his future, his rent for the month, even his food money for the week. Poof! It all vanished. In a flash, he went from being this comfortable, know-it-all economist to just a poor crocodile. But you know what's weird? His first feeling wasn't even sadness for everything he lost. Nope. It was something way more primal, more visceral. It was this raw, paralyzing fear for right now. A cold dread that just completely hollowed him out.
Now, Croc had no idea what was happening to him, but he was about to get a first-hand lesson in a really powerful psychological phenomenon, something called the scarcity tax.
So, the very next day, Croc goes to work, but he's a completely different crocodile. His boss is talking about some complex market forecast. The stuff that's supposed to be his bread and butter. But Croc, he can't follow a single word. His brain is just screaming these terrifyingly simple questions at him. The long term, the future, that's all gone. The only thing that exists is the panic of right now.
And that right there is the scarcity tax. It's not a tax you pay with money. It's a tax on your mind. When you're facing this urgent, desperate lack of something essential, like money or food or even time, that one single problem literally hijacks your brain. It just consumes all of your attention.
Okay, here's a good way to think about it. Your brain is kind of like a computer, right? It's incredibly powerful, but it has a limited amount of processing power. Psychologists have a term for this. They call it cognitive bandwidth.
And what happened to Croc is that poverty installed this massive resource-hogging program on his mental computer. It's called survival. And this one program is now using up 99% of his mental CPU. That leaves almost nothing left over for anything else. Not complex work, not planning for next month, not even for basic stuff like self-control.
So what happens when your brain is maxed out like that, running at 99% capacity just trying to survive? Well, you get trapped, and you start making the exact same decisions you used to look down on others for making. Croc had just entered what researchers call the scarcity tunnel. And when you're in this tunnel, your vision just narrows down to a single point. All you can see is the problem that's right in front of your face. Everything else, long-term consequences, other possibilities, better options, it all just fades into black.
And then one night, he's starving. He's just 3 days away from being kicked out on the street, and he sees that same payday loan ad again. 6 months ago, he saw a foolish trap. But tonight, desperate, exhausted, and trapped in that tunnel, he saw a lifeline. He saw a saving grace.
Oh, the little economist inside him was still there, for sure. It was screaming, "This is a disaster! Don't do it!" But that logical voice,
It was just a whisper compared to the roar of his survival instinct. This wasn't about making the best long-term decision anymore. It was about making the only decision that would get him through the night. So he took the loan.
So that night, Croc paid his rent. He ate a real, warm meal for the first time in what felt like forever. The immediate threat was gone. And in that quiet moment of relief, it was like a thick fog finally started to lift from his brain.
That massive survival program that was hogging all his mental energy, it finally throttled back. His mental CPU usage dropped from that crushing 99% all the way down to maybe 70. And with all that new, freed-up brain power, something amazing happened. The old Croak, the economist, he was back.
And he looked down at the loan papers in his hand, and that 50% interest rate, it didn't look like a lifeline anymore. It looked like a monster. And this wave of horror just washed over him. What have I done? I knew this was a terrible idea, so why? Why did I do it? And right there, in that moment, it all clicked. He finally, truly understood.
This was his big epiphany. Poverty doesn't make you stupid. It just eats up all your mental bandwidth. Your IQ, it isn't some fixed number. Think of it more like your phone's memory, and poverty is an app that uses up all of it. And willpower, self-control, those aren't about character. They're like muscles. And when you spend all day, every day, fighting off one financial crisis after another, that muscle gets completely exhausted. The poor aren't making bad decisions because they're foolish. They're making them because they are just profoundly bone-deep tired.
Look, Croc was still poor, and now he was stuck with this terrible loan. But he had learned something that no economics textbook could ever teach him, which brings us all the way back to where we started, but now with a completely new lens. If we know that poverty isn't a character flaw, but a cognitive trap, one that literally taxes our brain power, how should that change our view of it? More importantly, how should it change our view of the people who are caught inside that trap?